Queen Victoria was a monarch with multiple number of assassination attempts throughout her reign. The most famous attempt was that of an unemployed Londoner, Edward Oxford. Only 4 months after their royal wedding, Victoria and Albert were riding by carriage outside Buckingham Palace, when 18-year-old Edward stood mean-faced in the crowd with a loaded pistol. He shot at the Queen in the hope to kill the pregnant monarch. Luckily, he missed the shot. She was confused and thought that someone was hunting in a nearby field, but she knew of the extreme violence aimed towards her when a second shot was launched by Oxford. She managed to duck for safety with Albert while the crowd wrestled with the assassinator to the ground. Victoria then continued her carriage ride as if nothing had happened in the defiance of those that go against the monarchy. This man, once arrested, was found guilty of his crime, but also of insanity, and so he spent the next 24 years in an asylum before being deported to Australia. This crazy story starts with a very young Oxford. He was unemployed and had a lot of time to obsess over his unnerving hobbies. He began his unhealthy obsession with guns, and from here he planned to kill the Queen during the spring of 1840 during an open-top carriage ride. He noticed that their security was lacking, with only 2 outriders, and he perceived his quest as an easy one. Clearly suffering from a mental illness or some form of psychopathy, he was even more excited that the Queen was 4 months pregnant, and that the outcry from her death would be even more prevalent. If he succeeded in killing her, he would also kill her heir to the throne. Some months before, his fantasy spiraled. He lost his job as a waiter, and he spent all of his newly freed time going shooting at the galleries in the Strand and Leicester Square. He had a lot of time, and his fantasy played on his mind until it became an outright obsession and compulsion. He began to put his plan into action by attending a friend's gun shop for copper percussion caps, bullets and gunpowder. Oxford soon had everything he needed. On the 10th of June, he took his ammunition to a footpath close to Constitution Hill, where the Queen would be riding by horse-drawn carriage with her husband. He waited for the sound of the horses' hooves on the ground before stepping forward from the shadows into sight of the couple, and much to his delight, and as expected, their guards were not present. He fired both of his pistols, and the horses reared up in fear before running away with the Queen's carriage in tow. He was unsure whether his quest had been successful or not, and with little time to think, he was wrestled to the ground by horrified onlookers. They unarmed him, and he was arrested and charged with treason, but he was disappointed to learn that the Queen had escaped unharmed. With pride, Oxford admitted to the crime, and after little interrogation he offered up his home address for the police to search. They found a locked casket containing a sword and scabbard, 2 pistol bags, powder, a bullet mould, 5 lead balls, and some of the percussion caps. The police were concerned that an underground military organisation had been formed, as details of serving officers were found at his home. But after further investigation, it was discovered that Oxford had fabricated the whole thing after spiralling into his own obsession. The police struggled to find tangible evidence of his crime. The bullets fired during the assassination attempt had probably been picked up as a souvenir by onlookers. This gave Oxford the opportunity to change his story to get away with his crime. He attempted to deceive the officers by saying that the guns had only fired gunpowder, but his confession was enough to charge him, alongside witnesses that testified against his mental stability and sobriety. The Queen was furious to hear that he had been acquitted on the grounds of insanity, but nonetheless he would still be sentenced to detention at Her Majesty's pleasure. Oxford was sent to a lunatic asylum, where at the time it was common for the public to have tours of these facilities, to be entertained by the mentally insane. He spent 24 years there, where he became a model prisoner. He was friendly and obliging, and while there he learnt to speak 6 languages: French, German, and Italian, along with Spanish, Greek, and Latin. He took up healthy hobbies such as drawing, reading, and playing the violin, and was later employed as a painter and decorator within the asylum. He was a far cry away from the man that had attempted to assassinate the pregnant Queen. In 1864 he was transferred to Broadmoor, where he was deemed to pose no threat to the public. He was finally released in 1867 and deported to Australia, never to return again. He was given a new identity, and he was now named John Freeman. He was well known in the community, and his reputation was brilliant. He was well liked and respected by his neighbours, as well as being part of the community with his role as a church warden. He cared for his poor widow's 2 children, and they had no idea that he had a criminal past and that he had spent 24 years in an asylum for his attempted assassination of the Queen. Please comment, like and subscribe if you wish for more stories, and leave your suggestions below and I will endeavour to cover them.